All right, today we're honored to host Frank Chou, a distinguished legal professional who has made significant strides in insurance law, regulatory compliance, and legal technology. Frank's career is marked by his ability to blend traditional legal practices with forward-thinking solutions, making him a unique voice in today's legal landscape. We're excited to explore his journey, gain insights into the evolving legal industry, and hear his advice for the next generation of lawyers. Frank, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on. It was a very, very interesting intro. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely excited to be here.
Great, great. Well, can we talk a little bit about where you are now, your current company, current role, and then we'll go from there?
Sure, sounds good. So I'm currently the general counsel at Rhino plus Jetty. It's a insurtech company in the secure deposit insurance space. So our main product offering is what's called a security deposit insurance product. And the intent is that it would take the place of a traditional cash deposit. So we're trying to give renters optionality if they want to purchase our insurance product instead, and that can take the place of the cash deposit. It'll help free up some cash upfront, and then also it'll give some assurances to the landlord that they have this requirement covered by our SDI product. And we all are also working with a few different partners just to have different opportunities available for renters too. So some of my day-to-day, it's really being the general counsel, really get involved with a lot of contract work. It is a regulated space, so we also deal with regulators, different departments of insurance at the state level. Just making sure the T's are crossed and I's are dotted in terms of licensing, any of the compliance concerns that might come up, and then just any issues that our business teams might deal with, whether it be the risk team, our product team, our revenue team. There's, I think, on a day-to-day basis, sometimes there's prior drill, sometimes there's just random legal questions they want to get answered before they take the next step. So I just try to help facilitate our teams to help our renters and landlords with our product offering.
And so how long have you been with the company?
Over a year now. I think close to 2 years at my current company.
And are you the first legal hire, or how long has a lawyer been employed by Rhino and Jetty?
We've had counsel for quite some time. I did start as the assistant GC and then rose to the ranks to the current role. So yeah, in the past also had a GC. So I think given the regulatory landscape, just some of the more complicated issues, it does help to have in-house counsel to just sort of opine and provide advice on an as-needed basis. So it's been several years, probably since inception of the company, that we've had a legal team at the company.
What's the size of the current legal team?
Right now, my team is a group of 4, and it is 3 compliance people. I think just given the number of licensing issues and just compliance audits and other, just being in the insurance space, there's quite a bit of work involved on the compliance front. For the legal work, it is just a team of 1 right now. So, I get the benefits of everything from start to finish and just sort of all the ancillary legal questions that might come up, or just some of the random matters that I might need, the company might need to deal with. It all crosses my desk.
Got it. And so can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you joined Rhino and Jetty, what your prior experience was?
Yeah, definitely. So before my current role, I was at HomeTap. It was a fintech startup. So in that role, again, serving as an in-house counsel, I was able to get into marketing work, just reviewing marketing collateral, making sure that our contracts with our vendors are up to speed, answer any questions with our partnerships teams with if they're engaging in new partnership opportunities, how can we build the best contract in the most compliant manner, and just making sure all of our business concerns are addressed. So at my last startup, it was HomeTap, and they offered what's called the home equity investment. So it was an opportunity to leverage some of the equity in your home to take out cash, and then within a certain period, or when you're ready to pay back, you just make the payments back to HomeTap, and then be all set with with us on that front. So it was another fintech company that I was at before my current one at Rhino plus Jetty.
Got it. That's great. So your academic background spans economics, biology, and law. How did this combination of disciplines influence your perspective as a practicing attorney?
Yeah, it seems very varied and very very different from each other, which it is. And I think at the time I was looking to get into the medical field, so hence the bio major. And then I think during that time I wanted to pivot or have another option. And for whatever reason, I think I was business minded, and I thought economics was like just sort of like a good foundational educational experience to have. So I decided to pursue a dual degree in both biology and economics. When I graduated, I was looking for a job, and I did start my legal career as a legal assistant at a boutique firm dealing mostly with real estate transactions. And from that experience, I think I gained this understanding that I enjoyed dealing with complicated transactions and also trying to apply the law, just more unique or tricky fact patterns. So at the time, the natural path forward seemed to be go to law school. So I think through that trajectory, that's how I sort of ended up where I am now.
And what first drew you to pursue a career in law, and what motivated you to become an in-house generalist?
I think it was right after law school. I got into the government sector. So through that, I had a wide range of experiences with transactional work, enforcement, and litigation. And then before I pivoted into the SAR space, my last role at the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, so the MTA with New York, that was a lot of in-house legal work, serving as in-house counsel to the workers' compensation division. So I think from that experience, it felt like that was the best fit for me in terms of like what type of legal work I wanted to do. And it was really serving in this role of advising our in-house claims team, and just sort of like being the expert on everything related to insurance and workers' compensation. So that's sort of like, I think the avenue I decided to take when I first came out of law school was getting into the government sector. I really was interested in the public interest. And then the pivot to startup was more about this interest towards trying to be more oriented towards innovation, maybe working in a faster paced environment. So I felt like finding a startup company might have been a good next step in terms of growing my experiences and just sort of what I can work with from a legal perspective.
So how's your experience working with startups and the government sector? How has it shaped your approach to resolving legal challenges?
I think the approach is mostly the same, right? I think the legal work itself it really remains the same, but it's more of what lens am I looking through, right? So in the government sector, it's more about enforcement, really staying close to what the regulations or the statute might say, and just sort of furthering the mission of the agency itself. I think in the startup world, a lot of companies are working in a new space, or they might be trying to innovate and do something new. So oftentimes the law isn't quite caught up to what the company is doing, right? So it might be in a space where it's unregulated, or it's just the regulatory landscape is a little unsettled. So I think the difference from there is that really oriented towards having creative solutions and just sort of being able to address any novel or emerging topics that companies haven't faced yet, and the law doesn't quite address. So it's really trying to see how we can sort of thread the needle and sort of keep doing what we're doing, but at the same time just stay compliant with whatever regulators might be concerned about.
So looking back at your time in law school, were there experiences or lessons you learned that still resonate in your practice today?
I think the concept of deadlines are important. It really was hammered home. I think whenever papers are due or exams are coming up, I had one seminar professor that was, if we were 1 minute late, she would not accept it. And I was unfortunately 2 minutes late, but through a miracle, I was able to, get it in. And, so I think from that, it was a very, sort of like clear and eye-opening experience that like deadlines are important. And it really is set for a reason. And I think it applies in my day-to-day work now too, is that, regulars might have questions and they're expecting a response by a certain date. We have various projects that are in the works, and then we want to hit a certain launch date. So several business teams might have expectation that things are ready, and if there are any legal questions, to just have that already answered. So concept of deadlines being important, and just clear communication is something that is like an ongoing challenge, whether it be in writing or orally, to be able to like convey sort of complex legal concepts, and then just sort of distilling it down for the business teams. I think that skill, trying to put legal terms in lay speak, is a skill that does require some time to really master and be able to do well.
What was the most pivotal decision that shaped your career path to where you are today?
I would say it was getting married, and I say that because I think the change that the catalyst for the change of like me shifting from government to startup, it was really my wife. I think it's important to find the right partner in life if you're with someone else, or have just that support, right? In terms of like career, like I think finding a good network of people, and just understanding your support and professional network, keeping that network very tight, and also just making sure that like you have the right people in your corner really does make a big difference. So for me, it's it's my wife, and like every day, I do thank her for just like being with me and just being able to like go through this career journey. And it's a daily struggle that I think makes it becomes a little bit easier when you have someone that can be by your side throughout all of it.
Is she a lawyer as well?
She's not. She's in the biotech space, so very different from me. But I think that kind of sort of offers a different perspective in terms of like how we look at things, the way we approach, just some of the problems that we might be dealing with, whether it be professionally or just in our day-to-day life. So I think it's that unique perspective that really does also help me out too.
You've had roles encompassing both legal strategy and practical day-to-day problem solving. How do you balance these two sometimes conflicting responsibilities?
I think understanding ownership and then what my role is I think a key concept that I try to keep in mind. So I think there are a lot of projects that have cross-functional impacts. It involves many different people that are doing many different things. So I think it's good that everyone should understand what they're doing in terms of the bigger picture. Also, for a particular project, who is the owner, right? So I would say a lot of work that involves like in-house counsel or a lawyer, outside of like anything specifically related to like litigation or like trying to get a deal done, it's really other business teams, and sort of the in-house counsel serves in this role of like being an advisor, or just sort of pointing out what are the risk areas, or just other considerations to keep in mind. So I think really understanding ownership and each person's role within a particular project, or just like the company's mission, is important concept to understand.
Many lawyers find leadership to be a major adjustment. Can you share how you adapted to leadership and what skills are essential to leading a legal team effectively?
So I think my government work really shaped my foundation to like my approach in terms of leadership, and just understanding this concept like dotted line reporting. So I think at the NTA, I worked I was the legal team lead, but it was within a larger division. So a lot of the claims work, and some of the regulatory work, it was done by other people. And then it was finding this balance of trying to make sure that like things that I thought was a concern was addressed, and then being able to get people to buy in and to consider that in their own decisions. So I think that a lot of those concepts translates over. And then I think in the startup world, you really need to be a problem solver, right? I think I've also really need to be willing to delegate, and because especially with a legal team of one, I can only do so much. So I really do need to lean on my team to help fill those gaps. And then like I don't expect to be an expert in everything, right? So I'm more than happy to let other people lead, and then through like a group mindset, we can sort of tackle more problems and then address more issues that way. And then just understand how to communicate pain points, right? So whether it be to understand what other people are actually worried about or what they're concerned about, or we're trying to relay what I think are important to other teams or my colleagues, that those skills have been important in terms of like making sure I try to be the best legal leader that I can be.
And how do you separate the kind of delegation of responsibility among outside counsel and in-house counsel, or your internal team?
It's a great question. So I think from an in-house counsel perspective, I try my best to keep everything in-house from a cost perspective and just sort of continuity. I feel it's better that if in-house counsel can handle it, that it's done that way. But in terms of, there might be times where there's resource constraints, or just there is a particular topic that's very specialized or niche that outside counsel's help is more effective, right, or more efficient to get the answer in the quickest way possible. So it's really understanding what the issue is and then trying to figure out, can I handle this in a relatively fast manner and be thorough about it, or should I just get in touch with the outside counsel, maybe have like a 30-minute call and I could get the answer. So it's really just sort of like a balancing act of a couple different priorities.
How do you approach mentoring or supporting junior attorneys to help them grow and succeed within an organization?
I think I try to give critical but constructive feedback. And, in terms of I think just thinking back when I first started, some of the foundational skills that you really don't learn in law school, but become very important in practice. It was a work in progress. And what helped me was that I was able to get feedback on what I was doing well, what I wasn't doing too well, and just things I could do to improve myself. And I think through that experience and that iterative process, you kind of learn your own style. You learn what you're good at, what you tend to maybe need to do a little bit more work in, and then going forward, you can focus on those problem areas, or like spend less time because you can do XYZ relatively well and relatively quickly. So I think advice would be just to be constructive but critical, and also be able to flag what someone is doing well or could need improvement, and how to relay that so that the person receiving that feedback isn't either put off guard, or they're really at least trying to understand what I'm trying to get at, or like what I think could be improved. So just again, I think it goes back to communication and just giving appropriate feedback.
So building relationships across business units has become crucial for in-house counsel. How do you foster trust and collaboration with non-legal teams in an organization?
I think being responsive, and then being able to set deadlines and meet them is important, right? So I think there's a lot of things in flux that sometimes teams might only see the work that they're doing, but there's many other teams, there's other things going on and that are sort of running in parallel. That is it's important to other teams to make sure it gets done on a timely basis. So oftentimes, it's important to be responsive. And it can be as simple as like, I don't have an answer yet, or I'm still working on it. To let people know that it's a priority. I think it gives reassurances to other teams that, Frank is, there's a lot going on for Frank, but like I know that it's on his list to get done. So setting expectations is important. So I think that definitely helps with relationship building and just sort of like managing various different priorities on an ongoing basis.
What have been the most rewarding aspects of your leadership journey, and what lessons have you learned along the way?
I think working collaboratively has been definitely one of the most enjoyable pieces. I think it can also be the most challenging aspect. Collaboration sounds very, very simple, but I think in practice, to do it well and to do it in a timely manner does take some finesse and some skill to work with different people in a productive manner. So I think also eventually becoming the go-to person in terms of, whether it be employment law, there's a question about a contract. We have investors that are asking for X, Y, and Z. How do we respond to them? So it feels, I think, rewarding to be able to like be that person to provide those answers, and like people are turning to me to find out what's the best way, or just give them options on how to address a problem that they're facing.
You've been deeply involved in legal technology and digital transformation. How do you view the current state of legal tech adoption in the industry?
I think we've hit an inflection point. It's been some time, but I think AI has really changed the landscape for not just the legal industry, but many other professions and other jobs and other functions. So I think we're in this time where AI, every company is trying to see how they can incorporate it, or how can we leverage AI to be more efficient, or find easier ways to get an answer. So I think the current state is that it's, I would say, very exciting, right? But at the same time, it's still undeveloped, or just trying to fit, AI is, we're all trying to see how it fits in terms of a product standpoint, or like a standpoint of like how do we want to leverage AI for
Yeah.
some of the work that we're doing.
Do you have an example of how you've used AI either personally or how you're using it within the company that's been somewhat transformative?
So I think AI has from my understanding, like a pretty heavy impact in the like software engineering world. So
Yeah.
a lot of the coding work can be done, like much in a quicker way, or just more efficiently. So I think for software engineers, it's been definitely a benefit. But at the same time, I think there's some concern or angst around how much can AI really do, and I don't think there's any concerns about like completely taking over an engineer's job. But there's definitely been a lot of changes within how AI is used in for engineering and coding work. And then from the legal perspective, it's really trying to understand how these models are being trained, what information is being put into like a particular AI software program, and just understanding like data privacy, what their record retention laws are, and just letting our teams know like these are some of the concerns. We should really understand what these companies are doing with our information, and just sort of like the output of that. I think the challenge of, that's one of the challenges. Also, I think just like a fundamental concern of like AI hallucinating, or just giving what statutes or regs seem to be true but are actually not. I think there's early on with like ChatGPT, there was a case in New York where I think a firm filed like a court brief, and it was completely AI generated. It sort of created false case citations and just facts that weren't true. So I think there's just a need to have some caution around how AI is used, and just some of the outputs that we're getting, to just double check everything to make sure it's actually accurate. So
what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced implementing technology or innovative solutions in traditional legal environments?
I think like handling data privacy, and just sort of like understanding how our proprietary and confidential information is being handled by vendors, or just like how our colleagues and teammates are using it. It's important to make sure like that we're clear about what the boundaries are, how that information is being used, and just on the receiving end. So like if it's being shared out, we just want to have a good understanding, and be aware of like what the potential risks are in terms of putting out certain types of information into the world. So
Yeah. And how do you keep yourself updated on industry trends and tech developments given the fast pace of the change in the legal world?
I think being following up, I try to stay current with news. Also, just hearing what's going on from colleagues. Oftentimes, people are sharing random articles about the insurtech fintech space. What other companies are doing with AI. What are some of the recent cases that have come up? So hear from colleagues, keeping up with the news, and just LinkedIn has been a recent source of just articles out there of like other legal professionals, what's going on, and just some of the information that's out there on social media.
Yeah. For young professionals looking to build a career as an in-house counsel or at the intersection of law and technology, what key advice would you give to help them succeed?
Oh man, this question makes me feel so old, but I guess for younger lawyers, I think a couple different, I guess, like principles I would say is I feel like good judgment comes up a lot, right? And like I think when I first started, that concept I didn't quite understand what that meant, right? Like what is good judgment? So I think for me, and it was something I learned from my former boss at the MTA, was that you shouldn't focus on the end result, right? But really just understand how the process that you went through and what you did to get to the end result is the important piece, right? So at times we can't control the outcome, but we can control the workflow, how we're doing the research, how we're writing up our brief. So like things within our control will help if we have a good understanding of that process and we're confident about the process that we implemented or that we went through to get to the final outcome. I think that usually drives like what's considered good judgment in the sense that the outcome I try not to focus too much on, but just understanding and having confidence in my process is important. That kind of naturally drives a good judgment, or sort of like having good judgment, being a reliable source to other teams in terms of being that person that can offer advice and have that be reliable.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for. Oh no, please continue.
No. I was just I think just want to say it's been great chatting with you. Definitely appreciate the time. So
yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great to have you, and wish you all the best. And we're following you as your career continues.
Thank you. Take care.